Okay.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance out to the North Ogden City Planning Commission meeting for March 3rd, 2021. My name is Brandon Mason. I'm standing in for Chairman Thomas today, and we'll be conducting the meeting. We're going to start as we always do with our invocation or thought from Commissioner Lunt, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance recited by Commissioner Arner, and I will go directly into that item now.
All right. Our Father in heaven, we're very grateful for this beautiful day that we've been blessed with and wonderful weather that we've had the last couple of days. Grateful to be able to meet tonight as a planning commission and with members of our city, that ask you to bless that as we discuss the things that we have tonight, that we will know how to best serve and how to best plan for the future needs of North Ogden City, and that we can do so in a constructive and kind manner, and ask you to please be with those who serve in the armed forces and bless and protect them, and bless our country as we continue to move forward, that we can do so with a sense of unity and peace, and strengthen each other. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks both of you for that. As far as roll call, we note that, and as noted earlier, Chairman Thomas is excused from tonight's meeting. Aside from that, I believe we're all in attendance. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're all here. Okay. The next item would be minutes consideration. I would move that we should not consider the minutes, as I did not have time to read them. There were the minutes in the packet we were given were the minutes from the February 3rd meeting, which we'd already reviewed and approved in the last meeting. So I don't see any fresh minutes to approve.
I actually put them up a couple of hours ago, so I'm hoping that.
Well, I refreshed maybe 20 minutes before the meeting, and I still have the old version.
Okay.
I re-downloaded it even, and I noted that also on your screen what you were showing still referenced February 3rd as well. So I mean, if please, by all means, commissioners, if you feel different, go ahead and move to approve them. But I would move that we not approve the previous minutes, and we wait and we defer for next meeting.
Brandon, mine shows February 17th, but I agree. It's only been a couple of hours to go through and read them. I'd like to table it till next meeting as well.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table that. Any discussion? Any conflicting ideas? Okay, let's by voice vote. All in favor to table the minutes approval till next week, please manifest it. Aye.
Aye.
If any were opposed, please let us know. Thank you. Okay, we're going to table that, and we'll pick that up next week, and hopefully we'll have a chance in the next next meeting. I mean, and I guess we could. Well, let's just hold off for next meeting. Okay, the first of each of these meetings, we read an opening meeting statement, which lays out some of our procedures, and I'm going to go ahead and read that tonight. So before each agenda item begins, city staff will give a report. After the staff report, the item will be open for other speakers. The applicant will speak first and be allowed up to 10 minutes. Following the applicant, any other interested person will be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. The applicant has final rebuttal time of up to 5 minutes. Any materials that are displayed or referenced, examples, pictures, written materials, will become part of the written record and must be forwarded to the commission. Speakers are required to have registered their full name on Zoom and will state their name and address before beginning their remarks. If you agree with the previous speaker, then state your agreement to avoid repetitious remarks. Speakers shall address all comments to the planning commission. And then we have some further items on that. If you do want to get our attention, please to speak, please raise your hand, and then Lynn, who's running the show here, will elevate your privileges and allow you to address us. And we are definitely interested in hearing from people and appreciate input on all sides. So, okay, and if you are not speaking, it does become easier if you silence your microphone. Okay. Let's see. Okay, do we have any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest to disclose from anyone present? I will note that one of our applicants tonight is Eric Thomas, who's our chairman. He's not in attendance, and he has sent his assistant to be the applicant, but Eric is involved with that project. So just by way of public disclosure, let's just make that known. Okay, Eric's not trying to hide, he's just out of town. So anything we need to disclose? Okay, we're going to turn the time over to the public right now for any comments that were not on the agenda tonight. So if you have any general comments for the Planning Commission or something that doesn't pertain to an item on tonight's agenda, now would be your chance to address us with that. And again, go ahead and use the hand raise function on Zoom, and we'll make note that you're looking to make a comment. Do we see any, Lynn?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, let's go ahead and close the public comment then and move right into our first administrative item. We have two of them tonight. This would be item 6 on the agenda. It's consideration and action regarding the final approval for North Oaks Cove subdivision phase 15. So Kai, do you have something to present to us?
Yes, sir.
It's all yours.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners. This is a final approval for phase 15 in North Oaks Cove. There are a couple of changes, and action. The applicant is actually Tyson Lund, who works with Regency. I think he is here tonight. So this is a little different than they're breaking this up so that there are a number of changes from preliminary approval. Specifically, there's been a lot. I don't want to. The word "added" could be used. It's a lot from phase 16. Lynn, will you scroll down just a bit, please? So when phase 15, when preliminary approval was granted for phases 15 and 16, the utilities were extended. So that's why they added that lot. That's the issue there. And there are still a number of 2 items specifically that we're waiting for. We just haven't got the information from, specifically a fire flow test on this subdivision from the fire department, as well as a note on a geotechnical report. Those are 2 items we need for final approval that we just haven't got quite yet. And we're asking that that be included as part of this approval. The rest of the subdivision, all of the lots meet the standards and the ordinances in that regard. There are just those 3, the change in the adding of the lot, as well as the 2 pieces of missing information from the fire marshal, as well as the applicant. If there are any, can you scroll down just a little bit more, Lynn, please?
Kai, just a quick question. The changes you're referring to, this is Commissioner Nancarrow, sorry. The changes you're referring to, would they be included in the conditions of approval outlined in the staff report as written? Or is there something on top of that that we need to include in any approval?
I'm having a hard time. My screen's a little smaller. Let's see.
I could read them. Requirements of the North Ogden City Engineers Report must be met prior to the final approval. Requirements of the technical review committee letter, geotechnical report, a note needs to be placed on the plat referencing the company report number and date of the geotechnical report. And if a building size restriction is needed based on a fire flow calculation permit, staff to approve note to be added to plat. Would that include what the changes you're talking about?
No, I would think, I guess the recommended conditions approval, I would say would, in as much as these changes may affect, I spoke with the applicant prior to the meeting. He said this wouldn't affect phase 16. That was my only concern there. Just as long as the inclusion of lot 275 doesn't affect or put anything in the next phase out of compliance, I guess. Sorry, this is a first for me, Nicole.
I guess what I'm asking, Kai, is the inclusion of a lot that you're referring to and the fire marshal requirements, would they be covered under the umbrella of these if we make a motion to approve based on the conditions of approval in the staff report? Is there anything new beyond what those conditions of approval are that we need to mention?
There are,
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to think of how to word.
Okay, but you said there's an inclusion of an additional lot?
Yes.
Okay. That's not included in, say, one of the city
That was-
engineer's report requirements or?
That was not included as part of preliminary approval for phase 15 beforehand.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I have a question. On that fire flow calculations that still have to be done, what if those calculations come in low?
Then that would restrict the size of the homes.
Would it also maybe require the home to have sprinkling systems installed?
Yes, at a certain, there's a threshold. If say the home, they wanted a 7,000 square foot home and the flow was too low, they would be required to have sprinklers at that threshold.
Is that part of conditions of approval, or is this something understood during the building process?
That's taken care of at the building permit process.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Kai? All right. we'd invite the
I guess
applicant-
my only question is what is the lot that we need to mention in the motion? What is the change with the additional lot?
There, lot 275 is being moved from phase 16 into phase 15. Or included.
Okay, so it's being pushed forward.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Kai.
Okay, I have another question. A little confusing. So this subdivision is both in the HP2 and the HP3 zone? It includes both those zones?
No, thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Barker. There was a rezone that happened prior to this. It was part of that needed to happen before final approval. That rezone has taken place and has been recorded. The zoning map is currently being updated.
So that's what, so zone HP3? I'm trying to remember what we zoned it as.
It's zone HP2 currently.
That's, okay, now I remember. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Oh, Commissioner Nancarrow,
Yeah,
you said push through. I don't know if I like that verbiage. When I was speaking with the applicant, it's an inclusion because of the utilities. The utilities have been stubbed that far, and that's why it's considered an inclusion. And it's not. I guess I didn't like that verbiage. I apologize.
okay, so the verbiage of lot 275 be moved from phase 15 to phase 16, does that cover it? Or move from phase 15 to be included in phase 16?
Yeah, that worked. Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds appropriate.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Nicole, I think you've got that backwards though. It's being moved from phase 16 into phase 15, if I'm looking at this right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is that right, Kai?
Yeah, it's coming from 16 into 15.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
yeah, I did have that backwards. Okay, thanks.
Hey, commend you, commissioners, for your attention to detail there. That was great. Do we have any other questions for Kai before we hear from the applicant?
Nope.
Okay. Would the applicant care to address us?
He would, just a moment.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tyson.
Commissioners, appreciate you hearing us tonight. I don't really have anything to add. I think Kai did a great job explaining what's going on. The way the engineering's designed on it, what Kai already said on adding that lot, we were going to end up building the entire road in front of that lot, but then the lot was left into the next phase. And so we just moved it over. It's not changing anything on the next phase. The overall plan for 15 and 16 is the same. It's just that one lot got bumped. Everything else makes a lot of sense at this point in time. I don't think there's anything else I need to add.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other public comments about this item? From anyone else in attendance? We'll pause for a second to give you guys a chance. Remember to use the hand raise function in Zoom. Care to speak?
I don't see any hands, Brandon.
Okay, given the lack of comments, I would entertain a motion here. We can discuss it further, but let's get a motion on the table. Something, some action item that we're going to go towards approval or denial or table.
You know, since I wrote down that wording, I'll go ahead and make a motion that the planning commission grant final approval of the North Oaks Cove subdivision phase 15, subject to the conditions recommended in the staff report, the engineer's report, and the technical review committee letter, and including that lot 275 be moved from phase 16 and be included in phase 15.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion we'd like to have about this before a vote?
Just thank you for Nicole for taking better notes than I did. I couldn't follow my notes.
Excellent.
Well, Kai did a great job of explaining it, so.
He did. I just, my handwriting's all over the board.
I also feel, and we all know that Commissioner Thomas is involved in this, and I wanted to give it a stricter eye, but it just seems so straightforward in my opinion that
It is.
it just seems like it's one of the more straightforward applications we get. It feels to me like it's a continuation of some existing development that just carries that same look and feel across, and I see no reason to not approve what's been submitted. Other comments?
Mhm.
Okay, let's turn this over to a vote. Commissioner Webb, how do you vote?
Aye or yes or yay. I'm still learning the right language.
Yeah, I
but
shouldn't have put you first, but you know. Commissioner Lunt,
Yes.
Commissioner Arner,
Yes.
Commissioner Nancaro,
Yes,
Commissioner Barker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Motion carries. Which brings us to item number 2, which is item 7 on your agendas, which would be consideration and action regarding preliminary approval of Northview Estates subdivision located around 4200 North and 100 East. And Brandon Bell will be presenting that to us. Brandon, it's all yours. Brandon, you're still muted. We haven't heard any of that. Can you start over?
Yes, thanks for bringing that to my attention. Good evening, commissioners. This is a 46 lot subdivision. It's situated on approximately just under 19 acres. It's at approximately 4200 North and 100 East. The current land use is undeveloped, and it's proposed, of course, to be residential single family lots. It's on the south and the west, it's borders residential properties, and on the north and the east, it would remain undeveloped until future potential development. The this is the request of the applicant is for preliminary approval, and the current zoning is the HP1 zone. There's been a technical review committee meeting for this subdivision, and they stipulated the requirements that they are recommending. The city engineers also reviewed this with a number of requirements recommending to be met. And we have a will serve letter as well as for secondary water as well as for Central Weber sewer. The requirements in the HP1 zone are a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet with the lot width requirement of 90 feet and that's at the 30-foot setback. The lots in this subdivision have all been verified to meet the required square footage and lot width requirements in the HP2 zone, and with the exception of the square footage on lot 148 is inaccurate and needs to be adjusted. I'm confident it meets the square footage requirement, but it seems like there's a typo on one of the numbers. It's coming in at like 3/4 of an acre, and it's clearly somewhere closer to 1/4 of an acre. There are a couple of areas, Lynn, if you could actually pull up Exhibit E, that would probably be easiest to start with. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Along 100 East, which is on the west side of the subdivision, we'll show it to you shortly. That lot does not, this is this Exhibit E?
I don't know.
Okay, I need to, if you could work on seeing, there's an exhibit that should have a blue outline. And I just realized it might have gotten removed. We seem to have a problem with our, the software when we upload files. But so if you can look for one of the blue outline real quick, because I need to make a point in a minute on that topic. It's actually a master plan file.
Yeah, I'll look for it.
Okay, so if you see on the bottom of this plat, there's a long row just to the west of 100 East that where there's a series of lots, and that actually doesn't meet our lot width or our block length requirement. It's this area right here. It exceeds our block length requirement. However, we're of the opinion that the block length requirement is not able to be enforced in this area. And on this exhibit, I'll go ahead and draw it since the map's rotated. It's this series of lots right here. The block length requirement's not able to be enforced in that area because of existing development consistently throughout that property, or to the property to the west of that, which is in Pleasant View. And however, there is a design that's for a block that's being proposed in another area on the plat that would lead towards creating an entirely new block that would be longer than our block length maximum of 1,320 feet, where it's all new development, and so the block length requirement does come into play. And that's this block. You can see there's I'll go ahead and outline it myself real quick and get rid of this line.
Brandon, did you see that I brought up the one with the blue line on it?
I did. I appreciate that, Lynn. I just want to make it a little more clear because it's thinner than I expected. So this block that I'm outlining right here exceeds our block length requirements, and it's an entirely new block. Depending on how you measure, you get different numbers, but anyway, I measured it. It's clearly over 1,320 feet. It comes in, according to one measurement, at 1,710 feet. Even if I just drew a straight line this way, it comes in at about 1,500 feet. And so it's clearly over that 1,320. one item of significance on this issue is that, or on this particular block, is if you notice in the center, this is not the actual plat, this is the master plan, but that the applicant proposed for the area a number of years ago. But they were still required to get preliminary and final approval on their plats. And one of the things that we noticed when looking at this is that there's this Weaver School District property just to the north of this 1,700-foot block. And so the block length becomes obviously it's something we need to enforce, regardless of what the context is. But in this particular situation, there's an issue of the walking distance to a future school site for school children in the area, and as well as parents who need to pick up their children. And so staff is recommending that the block length requirement be enforced, and that the applicant needs to add a through street in the middle, somewhere in the middle of that block, in order to demonstrate and then demonstrate that the resulting 2 blocks that will be created to the east and to the west will meet our block length criteria of 1,320 feet or less in length. That shouldn't be a problem, but it will need the through street will need to go somewhere in the middle of the block. The next point is that in future phases, all of the block length should also need to fall within the block length requirements. Just real quick, I'll point out that this is one area where we also will likely not be able to enforce that block length because of topographical features, which there are an exception for in our code. There's a natural feature that's known as Long Bench, which they've noted that's just behind these plats in these lots in that area. Apologize for the rudimentary drawing skills.
Is this flipped 180 degrees?
It is, and I thought it's not 180. It's rotated 90 degrees from the prior plat. This is actually, well, the way I'm looking, it's oriented correctly, but I don't know which way everyone else is looking on their computer screens. But it's rotated 90 degrees from the prior version of the plat. So this, hopefully, this will make it clear. This area here is the west side of the plat, and this direction is east, and you can see north is this way. Does that make things
that N at the top is indicating true north, correct?
right? Yes, that's correct. So does that clarify things, Commissioner Mason?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't make that more clear early on.
I think I had this when I reviewed this afternoon. I think I had it flipped upside down and in a different part of the city. I need to reanalyze that.
So,
hey, Brandon, that street, the number of the street that is too long, that needs to be cut in half. What is that street? Do you know?
It's. I
Just
think
so
it's
we can
between.
we can reference it properly.
Let's look at the original. Let's look at the original plat instead of this master plan. I think the streets are listed. I think it's 3,900 and 4,100 are the 2 streets, but I'm not certain. So, I know it'll take. Oh, thanks, Lynn. So, yeah, it's 4,200. If you could zoom in just a little bit more, Lynn. 4,200 and then 4,100. So I was a little off on one of them.
So the through street would need to go between 4,200 and 4,100.
That's correct. In the block that's created there.
Okay, thanks.
You bet. So, so that's a primary issue that came up in our review. The next point is that the Parks and Recreation Department has stated that a trail needs to be located along Mountain Road. If you could scroll to the very east, or sorry, to the left, at least my left, Lynn, thank you. You can see Mountain Road's just to the east, the very, north part of this plat. And there's just a small section of Mountain Road. The challenge is that we're setting a precedent for what Mountain Road is going to look like. And so the Parks and Recreation Department stated that they need a trail to be located along Mountain Road, and that this is a critical area for the city's trail network. They've also stated that they need a dedicated trail on that trail needs to be a dedicated trail on dedicated property, as opposed to sometimes we've done a 6-foot sidewalk that that's sufficed as meeting the trail requirement in some areas. But they've stated that this is a critical area for the trail network and that they need it to be a full-fledged trail on dedicated property. They also need a bike lane, and that the city needs that trail section to be consistent all along Mountain Road. Staff recommendation is that the applicant needs to work with staff, including the Parks and Recreation Director, the city engineer, and our planning technician to finalize a trail design that meets Parks and Recreation standards prior to application for final approval. And that another recommendation is that the applicant needs to work with city staff to agree to terms regarding the dedication or acquisition of property for the trail and requirements of the street right of way. Additionally, relating to Mountain Road, the cross section, or in other words, what the road's going to look like for Mountain Road, it also needs to be finalized, including potentially a planted meeting or a similar design to break up the wider right of way width. And then just as a heads up to the applicant in potential future phases, the Parks and Recreation Director mentioned that if the property to the east of this subdivision develops in the future, it will need to have a north-south trail extending near 225 East. This doesn't quite go that far east, but they wanted, our Parks and Recreation Director wanted to mention that so that it doesn't catch the applicant unaware. Summary of considerations that the Planning Commission should review are: first, does the proposed subdivision meet the requirements of the applicable city subdivision and zoning ordinances? And is the proposed subdivision consistent with the general plan? The proposed subdivision does meet the requirements of the applicable North Ogden City ordinances and conforms to the North Ogden City general plan with the requirements recommended in this report. This subdivision is in the Hillside neighborhood, and the general plan map calls for this property to be developed as low density residential. There's a set of recommended conditions of approval, which I've already noted verbally, but that are listed at the end of the report as well. And staff recommendation is that the Planning Commission grant preliminary approval to the Northview Estates subdivision phase 8, subject to the conditions that I've outlined in my presentation and that are noted in written form in the report. I'm happy to take any questions that the commission might have for me.
Brandon, I
Yes.
just looked under here, the recommended conditions of approval. On there, it doesn't show where what the road going through the broke up the length of the blocks. Would that have with that,
yeah.
or?
So what I've stated there is that the applicant, the condition that mentions that in the section near the end of the report that says recommended conditions of approval, it's the third one down. It says the applicant needs to add a through street in the middle of the block highlighted in Exhibit E.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. I just missed it. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for the question.
Anything else for Brandon? Okay, in light of no further questions, I'd like to hear from the applicant. I assume he's here. I see an attendee of Cecil. Mr. Satterthwaite, if you'd care to address us, we'd be specifically interested in hearing your comments and addressing the recommended conditions of approval as noted by Brandon.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, yes, for sure on that block length, we will, I'm not sure what lots we'll put it between, but it will probably be between 132 and 131, but we will do that. That was something Brandon caught that we hadn't seen on our future stuff, so that will be corrected. As far as Mountain Road, we're willing to work with the city and I think what needs to be done as far as Mountain Road is we need to get with the city and get a standard cross section for that Mountain Road. Because as far as you go to the east where the cove comes in, it's got a certain length of curb, and that's what we have designed to is what's already built. And so if the city can come up with, and we can work with them, work with you guys and the staff to come up with a standard cross section for that Mountain Road, because that's kind of been a problem. Because you come up there and it's wider in some spots. It's a 80-foot right of way, which we're giving to the city, but the cross section has never been defined as exactly what we need to do. And we're willing to, we know we've got an 80-foot right of way, but you know, it's kind of gone back and forth like a bike lane, and I'm all for the trails and the bike lane, and you know, different things have been brought up, but it just seems like it gets thrown on us to come up with this master plan, but which we've tried to do, but at the same time, it's like, let's get together and work with staff to get a standard cross section for Mountain Road through the city.
Yeah, excellent point. And I don't know if you attend any of our meetings, but we've had
do.
that as an agenda item on the last couple of meetings. And we don't have anything concrete for you yet, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, staff. But the discussions are there, and you make a good point.
Right. And so, no, we're going to be developing there for years to come, and we want a master plan and make sure everything's, you know, I just don't want to go to our next phase and have a different cross section on Mountain Road. Let's get it up front and let's do it right now. And so we know where we're headed. But yeah, we're willing to do all that. So,
Wasn't that kind of alluded to in the staff report that would have to be taken care of and worked with?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that wasn't overlooked by the city.
I just think it would be a good idea to just come up with a standard cross section for Mountain Road. So either if it's
I agree.
us or somebody else doing that we're all consistent. So we match with width of curb and gutter, sidewalk, and bike lanes, whatever we need to do. I'd hate to drive up there in 10 years and doing a bunch of this development, which is a bunch of it on us, and then have a narrow street, and then it widens up, and then a bike lane, and it gets narrowed down. I mean, I think it should all be consistent. As far as planning goes, that's the way to do it. Let's get a consistent cross section to make sure that when you drive through there, it's all correct.
Wholeheartedly agree, Mr. Satterthwaite. Thank you. So regarding, and I didn't mean to cut you off if you had more to give us, but
That was
you kind of gave a head nod to some of the items. So the trail, I mean, the dedication of the land for the trail, is that going to be a sticky point? We just want to make sure we get all this talked about.
Well, it's not a sticky point. So when we've had our technical review, we do have in our master plan to the east of this subdivision, it will be in a future phase. There's a notch going through that long bench that if you look, there's like a 30-foot that we've kept for a trail to get up there. But we're giving up an 80-foot right of way for Mountain Road. So what we've talked with the engineers about is that trail along Mountain Road, we do a bike lane as well as a 6-foot sidewalk. Instead of a dedicated like dirt trail, I don't think you want to put a dirt trail behind these backyards. So I think that's what we've talked about. We're willing to discuss that and work that out, but there's just been no standard that it's hard for us to.
It sounds like when you have a standard, you're able to provide that to your engineer, and it saves time and effort on your part, organized.
Correct. Yeah. And yeah, I'm pro trail, I'm pro bike lane. We can do a 6-foot sidewalk on the north side. That's what we discussed with the engineer. That gives a little more room for on Mountain Road. And I think that's what we need to kind of all get together on and make sure we get a good standard cross-section for Mountain Road that provides that extra room for bike or hikers. And then we do have, if you look, if Brandon can go back to our overall master plan, we do show, you know, a good 20-foot wide route going through. There's kind of a notch in that long bench, and that's where we'd like to have that trail go, and we would dedicate that to the city. But I don't see any sense of putting a trail like right straight up the hill. Let's put it in the spot it should go.
Yeah, I'm unable to comment on that. Although when I hear, you know, comments from our parks department that says that it's critical, you know, my
It
ears
is
stand up,
critical.
and you know, it was specifically stated that a 6-foot sidewalk wouldn't work for them in that situation.
I know, but I guess I don't know. I guess I'm getting mixed signals, because when we met with the engineer and the planning, they're saying, well, a 6-foot sidewalk would work. Then plus you want a bike lane. So we're willing to do both. But then where do you want a dedicated trail to the city? Do you want it behind houses? I don't think so.
So I can clarify one thing. I was in the meeting with the city engineer. It's ultimately the Parks and Rec director to her responsibility to determine what will satisfy the trail requirements. And so this requirement came from our Parks and Recreation director. And I believe I tried to correct that in the notice of decision that was sent a few days after the meeting with the TRC meeting, where the city engineer made that comment.
Yes, and I understand that, but the person from Parks and Rec on the trails was not at our technical review committee. And so I'd love to have a meeting and just, let's plan it out. I mean, I'm all for planning it out. But
Okay, so it sounds like, Mr. Satterwhite, would you be open to, you know, I mean, I can't say where this is going to go, but, you know, to leaving that as still a condition of approval that you work with the
Yes.
Parks Department on that.
for sure, yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I want to, you know, I'm interested in getting you something that you can move forward with as well. But we
Yes.
need to balance that with the needs of the Parks Department, and
No,
I agree. I think something could be struck there.
I agree. Yeah, for sure. We'd like to just plan it all out, because the property above Long Bench, you're gonna be dealing with me on that. You're gonna be dealing with me on the next phases. Let's get it planned together and get a good plan. So I want to drive through there and be happy with what we've built. And we want to sell a bunch of lots and have nice homes and trails and all that. We want to benefit to the city. We want a nice spot.
Anything else for us, Mr. Satterwhite?
No, I appreciate you guys. We just need to kind of get together on some of this to work it out. So.
Okay, so I'd written down 3 big takeaways out of this. Well, there was one more issue, actually. There was the issue of the mathematical cleanup of the lot that looked like it was just misstated what its size was. Okay,
We'll
so
fix that.
okay, so I had those 4 things. I had that lot. I had the block length, which sounds like I'm getting a head nod that you're okay to add that connector road through there. We have the trail, which you're willing to have further discussion about, and then the conditions on Mountain Road, which you'd like some further guidance on that. Did I get all that? Am I reading you correctly on all that?
It looks like he's on mute. So
Oh,
Cecil, if you're wanting to comment, you're on mute.
I'm feeling that we're in agreement here.
No, yes, Commissioner Mason, yes, on all those. We will provide that road so that block length isn't too long. And then I just want to get together with city staff and get a standard on Mountain Road, and then also a kind of a master plan with the Trails Commission on where we put bike lanes, sidewalks, and trails. That would be perfect.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Satterwhite. We're still in public comment, and if that wraps up your comments, then I would turn the time to any interested members of the public who wish to comment on this application.
I don't see any hands.
Don't see any. Doesn't look like we have a large audience tonight.
Nope.
Okay. We'll close the public comments. Please use the Zoom function and raise your hand in the next couple minutes if you were wanting to mention something. Okay, commission. Again, as per following our process, I'd like to get a motion on the table, which we can then discuss. Okay, so let's suggest something, either a pro or for or against this approval or this motion, and then we can discuss it from there. So I am looking for a motion from you.
I can, I don't recall if there was anything additional to add. Was there? Over and above what's already in the staff report?
No, I think it was all
Unless you saw something.
included.
Okay, then I'll make a motion that recommend that we grant preliminary approval of the Northview Estates subdivision phase 8, subject to the conditions recommended in the staff report.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for positive approval of this. Which brings us to the discussion phase. So let's discuss this motion before we vote on it, okay? When I initially looked at this, I saw a lot of homes, and I saw that it was in the HP1 zone, and I thought, man, those lots are small for the hillside. However, they comply with the HP1 zone, so I see nothing that would prevent me from denying the motion. It seems like an administrative item. Our job would be to see, does it fit our standards, and it seems to. Obviously, there's the one lot cleanup thing that needs to happen. But those are my thoughts on that.
You know, Brandon, I thought the same thing. I've looked at that map. I thought, oh my gosh, look at that. That's a lot up there. Then I started looking at HP1 zone. It fit in it okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It seems like when we have a legislative item in front of us, we have the ability to kind of say, hey, well, you know, this needs to be here and not there. But on an administrative item, I believe our job is to identify and say, does this fit our ordinance? Yes, no. And I believe the applicant has demonstrated that with these minor cleanup items, and he seems willing to work with the city on that.
I agree.
So, any other thoughts on that? Maybe contradictory to what I said?
Now, the one thing I would add is I think the applicant makes a good point as far as having some sort of standard so that when he takes it to his engineer, they're able to apply exactly what we want as a city when it comes to the trail, what we're doing with that 80-foot right of way. So I think with time and due diligence, if we can provide that to him both for this phase and future phases, I think we'll end up with a better end product. And I think that's what he's asking there.
Yeah.
It sounds exactly like what Kai was presenting
Correct.
the last two meetings on the streetscape plan. It seemed like that this mountain road was really the focus of that.
Great.
Yeah.
It's hard those things don't just materialize quicker. But I think that is in motion.
It's almost like we need to move a little bit faster to get this taken care of.
Okay, well, any other discussion on this? I'm going to call for a vote. Commissioner Barker,
Yes.
Commissioner Nancaro,
Yes.
Commissioner Arner,
Yes.
Commissioner Lunt,
Yes.
and Commissioner Webb. I saved you for last.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the motion carries. All right. We only had 2 items on our agenda tonight, so the rest is general remarks from planning commissioners and from hearing from the city. So does anyone have anything they want to bring before the planning commission? Any of the commission members? Any general remarks? Talk of Mountain Road? Okay. Regarding philosophically, I in general feel like the Parks Department never gets what they want in these applications, right? And I do like to see an applicant that's willing to work with the Parks Department and kind of balance it. Now, the Parks Department's going to have their own motivation, and the applicant's going to have theirs, right? And I would like to see us, have some more teeth sometimes to enforce what the Parks Department requests in these things. And it sounds like we're going to get a nice trail up in that area. So this isn't, Mike, this comment isn't about that specifically. It's just more about, I see these requests come from the Parks Department, and Commissioner Nancaro, I know I sensed your frustration a few years ago when we had a developer kind of nod and agree to go with the Parks Department. At the end of the day, they changed their tune on that. And I really wish we had some more teeth to enforce that, because those are the things that are really going to enhance our city. I mean, there's going to be beautiful homes built, and that's going to be great, but to get people out and doing stuff is the real value to the city, I think. Anyway, so I'm a big fan of those trails, and the dirt ones.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that, it's one thing to have nice homes, but it's a whole nother thing to have a nice community. And when you have good trails like that, it draws people together, gets people out and active, and people can visit on those trails, and it just adds a lot more than people living inside of their homes. So I think it's a positive thing all the way around.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know how I feel about it, because I've been pretty vocal about it in the past. But, we always talk about how much we want to promote connectivity. And, if you look at North Ogden with the beautiful mountains and everything, is our trail system is really one of the assets and features and highlights of this community. And so I think it's something that we really do need to prioritize as development continues further up the mountain, because, it's really important to keep those trails. And the Parks and Rec Department does a fabulous job of mapping out, the connectivity and access to those trails and parks.
I think it's a little.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Totally
Lisa.
agree, Nicole.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating too, because in almost every one of these situations, you end up with, the developer saying, what's the point of this when you have a trail that dead ends to nowhere? And we're going to have, I think we are going to have to enforce that somewhat, because at some point those have to connect. And if you just don't put it there, then it's never going to be there. And so I agree as well.
Yeah, the hard part we have is that everyone wants trails, but nobody wants them in their backyard also, right? Like we all want them in somebody else's backyard. And so that's, they're going to have to be in someone's backyard, I think, and I also support the variety of not just the 6-foot sidewalks, but the dirt, and, having both, because there's a place for both, right? I mean, you got your little scooters and stuff that need concrete, and you've got people that just are jogging that want dirt, really. And so the variety is essential.
I literally have one in my backyard, and it doesn't bother me a bit. It's actually awesome.
Oh, good.
Well, I think the trails are important, but over here you have the trail go from Barker Parkway over towards Oakland Park. Part of that trail is about 8 feet off this guy's wall, house. And that's, to me, is a little iffy. So placement of it's very important. I like the trails, I want the trails, they need to be there. But I walk along there and look at that thing about 8 feet from that guy's house. I go, wow, that's a little questionable.
And I think that adds to, at least reading between the lines, what the applicant was saying. He has future plans that he'll be developing and coming back for these phases. And so if we can provide him with a plan, then he can look at lot placement and things like that, and maybe fit it around that a little bit. End up with a kind of a win-win situation there, because I agree. Some people actually really like those trails in their backyard, and they may select that lot in particular because they're a runner and they want access to get on that trail right out of their backyard.
I mean, the city does have does have general trails laid out on the master plan, and I consider us to be familiar with those, because that is there on our master plan. So,
I think the bigger issue has been that when a developer is trying to design the layout of the plots, it's hard for them to give up a lot to provide for a trail.
Well,
And
real
that's
estate in general.
that's where the rubber meets the road, is when it comes down to the dollars involved.
Certainly.
Well, and sometimes just the way the lots lay out, they may or may not have to give up an additional lot based on how they design them, because there's sufficient road frontage to do both, or sufficient square footage for what the lot requirement would be. And if they know that with some detail beforehand, it can allow the engineer to lay it out and maximize both.
Yeah, I hope that's that's always the goal, and that's usually how it works out. It's just when we've run into issues in the past, it seems like it's more of a business decision than, trying to work with the city.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, anything else from the planning commission? Brandon, do you have anything for us, or any of the staff?
Just that I know the plan is to try and continue to work on getting that the cross section for Mountain Road finalized, and hopefully that was clear from the report. I know that's, Cecil's made clear that that's something he's interested in, and city staff is as well.
Thanks, guys. This is a little out of norm, but I noticed that Mr. Satterthwaite's raised his hand. There was some general comments there made about trails that I think he was probably inferring on himself. So I'm going to, I think, allow him to address this again. Normally, Mr. Satterthwaite, you'd have your moment in the sun when you presented, or at the first of the meeting. But I noticed your raised hand, and if you care to address us, I'll allow it.
Thank you for that. And I didn't mean to butt in, but
Oh, no problem.
I know you talked about value and everything else. We see trails as a value. And so you discuss trails and everything like that, but I'm pro trail. And so we want to make it work, but it's got to work within the right context. And just like you said, you don't want a trail to nowhere. And not everybody wants a trail in their backyard, but in our mind, and it was commented on, it comes down to, dollars and cents or whatever, a business decision. A good trail in a neighborhood actually adds to the bottom line. Because when people come by homes, so we want to make it nice up there, and we want trails. And so I'm all for that, but I just would like to get with the city, and I wish they were at that technical review committee so we could, let's plan this out and make it pretty cool trails and everything else. I mean, let's make it good. So I just want you guys to know that, hey, we're not going to put our heels against trails. We're actually more trail because it actually adds to the bottom line if you've got that. If you don't, if it's just concrete and sidewalk,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I got that.
anyway,
I got that feel
that
from
was
you,
my
sir.
only comment.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Mr. Satterthwaite, I couldn't agree with you more, and I really appreciate your comments. And I wish, every developer had the same vision that you have.
Well, appreciate that, but it's true. So thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Okay. Unless anybody has anything else to add, I'd entertain a motion to finish watching the Jazz game. But quickly.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to adjourning? Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks.
See you
See ya.
guys.
Bye.
See you.